rescue operations continue. Around me,
after receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
For WION, World is One.
Hello and welcome to WION. You're watching Gravitas with me, Kaur Saroya. Here's what we've lined up for you on the show tonight. On the show tonight, we're asking perhaps what everyone has been thinking about. Has Netanyahu lost the balance? Has political survival become important for the Israeli Prime Minister than his own country? Despite the growing calls for a truce and an end to the assault, why is Netanyahu still adamant on continuing operations in Gaza? And to what end? We explore this on the show tonight. Also on the show tonight, what is China up to this time in the East China Sea? Stay tuned to find out. As heatwave unleashes its wrath across North India, the question remains, can we survive this inferno? Also, American Airlines is facing the heat over alleged racial discrimination. A lawsuit has been filed against them. We'll bring you this report in a few minutes. And Rishi Sunak is under scrutiny yet again, this time over his luxury backpack. We'll tell you all about this on the show tonight. In the Dutch political landscape, a new name has emerged, likely to be the next Prime Minister. Who is Dick Schoof? We will tell you. Are babies' cries and coos just that, or are they warming up to be able to better control their vocals? We'll find out. And in the Taj Mahal Hotel, there are strict orders to not show away a single street dog in search for shelter. We'll get you the story on the show as well. Has Netanyahu lost his balance? Has his own survival and power become more important for the Israeli Prime Minister than his country, Israel itself? I ask this because ministers in his own cabinet are accusing him of placing his personal desire for power above the nation's interests. Forget pleas from across the world to Netanyahu to change course and negotiate an end to the 7-month war which has wrought such unbelievable havoc on children, on adults, and destroyed cities. Netanyahu is facing growing pressure from his own war cabinet. On Wednesday, War Cabinet observer MK Gadi Eisenkot accused Netanyahu of having failed Israel on matters of both security and economy, while urging that elections be held by the end of the year, in a stark indictment of the government that he's a part of. He said, and I'm quoting here, "It's clear that this government needs to be replaced as soon as possible." Gadi Eisenkot suggested that a vote be held sometime between September and December to build the nation. He emphasized the need to replace the current government as soon as possible, noting that moderate voices within the government were becoming increasingly marginalized and drowned out by the far right and hardliners. In particular, he criticized Netanyahu over the war against Hamas. Eisenkot, who lost his youngest son in combat in Gaza, criticized Netanyahu for misleading the Israeli public with promises of total victory against Hamas. He also stated that it would take years to stabilize Gaza and build an alternative to Hamas. Not stopping there, Eisenkot accused Netanyahu of failing to fulfill his campaign promises as well, including stopping Iran's nuclear program and strengthening the economy. In response to the allegations, Netanyahu's party, that's the Likud party, it issued a statement on Telegram. It accused Eisenkot and Benny Gantz, Netanyahu's main challenger, of seeking excuses to quit the coalition during the height of the war. The political war of words, it's revealed the deepening divisions within Netanyahu's wartime government. This latest dispute also raises big questions about how long the government can survive as Netanyahu tries to balance conflicting demands from coalition members and faces global scrutiny over Israel's conduct in the war, including from the United States, a top ally. Three major nations from Europe, including Ireland, Spain and Norway, have shown their displeasure over Netanyahu's actions by recognizing the state of Palestine. There was near universal condemnation of the latest offensive in Rafah, which killed 45 Palestinians. Eisenkot's National Unity Party, led by Minister Benny Gantz, joined the war cabinet after Hamas's devastating attack on the 7th of October. Gantz is a member of the three-person war cabinet overseeing the campaign, while Eisenkot participates as an observer. Gantz was seen as Netanyahu's main challenger earlier in May, threatened to withdraw his centre-right party from the Conservative Prime Minister's wartime government. He set the deadline for the 1st of June and warned that if Netanyahu did not offer clarity on post-war plans for Gaza, he would withdraw. Gantz has held broadened support for the government in Israel and abroad. However, if he quits, Netanyahu would still command a majority in parliament, with the backing of ultra-nationalist parties. But these parties have angered Washington and world opinion by their extremist demand for the annihilation of Gaza. They want the land to be annexed, Palestinians to be expelled, the land repopulated by Israeli settlers. America's patience with Netanyahu already appears to be wearing thin. Today, the Biden administration warned Israel. Washington has told Netanyahu to prioritize a hostage release deal immediately. The world is demanding a peace agreement. A majority of Israelis want a ceasefire. Only Netanyahu and the hard right with him seems to want continued war. What triggered this? A statement by Netanyahu's national security advisor, Zaki Hanegbi. Hanegbi stated last night that the war in Gaza will last at least 7 more months. U.S. officials cited by Israeli newspaper Haaretz said that waiting until the end of the war to negotiate a hostage deal will endanger the lives of many hostages, some of whom may not survive such a long period of time in the hands of Hamas. The unnamed American official emphasized the urgency of the situation, stating that regardless of the war's duration, a deal must be reached now. The hostages in Gaza cannot wait 7 more months. America's response aside, we too have a number of questions for Netanyahu's advisor. One, where did this magic figure of 7 months come from? Why does he think it will be 7 months and not more and not less? Is this figure a political ploy without any rational basis? Netanyahu has said a number of times that Israel was on the verge of total victory. If that's true, then why 7 more months? Israel has pounded Hamas in Gaza since October. What more is needed? Or is the 7 months because Netanyahu knows that the White House will be vulnerable to political pressure until the election process is complete in November, and no serious decision is possible until a new president is sworn in by January next year? Does Netanyahu think he can wait out Biden in Gaza. Remember, talks for the release of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas have been stuck since early May. Hamas had accepted mediator proposals that had not been previously presented to Israel, but the Israeli government rejected it. According to reports, the United States is facing a dilemma due to Netanyahu's refusal to accept any deal that could end the war. And it could also see a return of all hostages. Retired IDF General Nitzan Alon has recently even said that as long as Netanyahu and his far-right allies remain in power, a hostage deal will never materialize. Now that makes us question, does Netanyahu prioritize war for his own survival? Many American officials and neutral observers are convinced that that is the case. Just today, an Israeli airstrike on Rafah has killed 12 Palestinians. Fighting raged in several other areas of the Palestinian enclave. In the past 24 hours, 53 have been killed in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run enclave's health ministry. Since the war began, over 36,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's air and land war. Most of its 2.3 million population has been displaced. It is experiencing a humanitarian catastrophe as aid organizations report widespread malnutrition and a collapsed health system. So what is Netanyahu waiting for? The complete destruction of every home, every house in Gaza? All right, bringing you the news update that's just coming in. Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz's National Unity Party has submitted a bill to dissolve the parliament. It is an attempt to topple the government led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This move comes after Gantz earlier this month threatened to leave Netanyahu's coalition if he does not declare a day after plan for Gaza. Let's now shift our focus to East China Sea. Japan spotted a new Chinese combat drone above waters near Okinawa. Which drone is it and what is China up to? Let me tell you. The Japanese Defense Ministry detected a WZ-10 military drone. It was flying near Japan's southwestern prefecture of Okinawa. This is where it lies on a map. It's the same shallow expanse that Tokyo claims Chinese ships have been visiting every single day this year. The airspace lies beyond Japan's territory, but it is within Japan's air defense identification zone. The Chinese drone has alarmed the Japanese Defense Ministry. It belongs to the Wing 10 family. It is developed by the Shangdu Aircraft Industry Group for reconnaissance and precision strike missions. The WZ-10 entered service in November 2022. It's a high-altitude, long-endurance drone with a wingspan of around 20 meters. It's 9 meters long, 4 meters high. The drone can operate at altitudes of up to 49,000 feet. It can fly up to a speed of 620 kilometers per hour and has an endurance of 20 hours. China produces this drone model for the PLA Air Force as well as for export. One of its customers is Saudi Arabia. Riyadh bought the Wing 10B export variant of the UAV during the World Defense Show this year. The question is, why is China sending this military drone in the Japanese air zone? That too right after its ships sailed near the disputed islands for a record 158 consecutive days. What is Japan doing about it? After spotting the drone, Japan's Joint Staff Office sent fighter jets from Naha Air Base in Okinawa. It was the first time aircraft was scrambled to intercept this type of drone. However, it was the fifth type of Chinese military drone the ministry has seen in the region so far. And it's not just the East China Sea. Beijing seems to be carrying out secret operations in the whole of the Indo-Pacific. It recently wrapped up 2 large-scale military drills around Taiwan. According to China, these drills were meant to punish what it calls separatist acts. These came right after the island nation's new leader, William Lai Ching-te took oath. Beijing has accused Lai of sending a dangerous signal on Taiwan independence during his inauguration speech. The drills involved dozens of Chinese fighter jets carrying live ammunition, conducting mock strikes against high-value military targets of the enemy and flying alongside destroyers, frigates and missile speedboats. Now, all PLA elements, including the rocket forces, were involved. China deployed 15 naval and 16 Coast Guard ships, but no live-fire drills were held in areas close to Taiwan. As many as 49 Chinese aircraft, 35 of which crossed the median line into Taiwan's air defense identification zone, were detected on the radar. China clearly did not hold back its aggression. It hit out at Tokyo as well for congratulating Lai on taking office. And if reports are to be believed, it is also working on secret tech to threaten Taiwan's biggest supporter, the United States. China is developing centers to hunt down American nuclear-powered submarines from air. There have been signs for years now. For starters, a state-owned China Electronics Tech Group filed a patent in 2020 for improved magnetic anomaly detection. This technology was first used in the Second World War to detect submarines. It was a useful system but had a lot of restrictions. Then in 2022, a patent by Aviation Industry Corporation of China called for a new system to operate sonobuoys. These sonobuoys would essentially be floating canisters. They could be dropped by planes and ships to detect subs using sonar signals. They would be better than the current Chinese sonobuoys that are complicated and labor-intensive to operate. Then there are several other patents for lighter sonobuoys and improved communications between sonobuoys and aircraft as well. In 2022, China surpassed the United States in number of patents filed. China has also been improving the quality of anti-submarine training. Since 2015, it has emphasized the need for anti-submarine warfare aircraft and ships to work closely together. All of this points in one direction, that China is up to something. It is developing new technology to counter American submarines, but it's highly secretive and not much is known about it.
Roasting, we are roasting here. We cannot tolerate at all.
Delhi is sweltering under a severe heat wave. It's almost like the Indian capital is on fire. That's not an exaggeration. An inferno has engulfed Delhi. Mercury has provisionally soared above 52 degrees Celsius in some parts. The Indian Met Department has a team to verify this. If confirmed, it would be the highest ever recorded temperature in India. Warnings of heat-related illnesses have been issued. A 40-year-old man from Bihar died in a Delhi hospital. The man was admitted to the hospital late Monday night after suffering a heat stroke. He'd been living in a room without a fan and had high fever. His doctor said the man's body temperature crossed the 107 degrees Fahrenheit mark. That's nearly 10 degrees above normal.
We have got about 6 patients who were critical and they had heat stroke-like symptoms, and 2 patients were having heat exertion symptoms. So some of the patients were drowsy and they needed ventilator, and some of the patients had convulsions also, and one patient came gasping also to the emergency department.
The national capital is living its summer nightmare as residents turn to air conditioning, coolers and ceiling fans to cope with the heat. Power demand has soared to an all-time high. On Tuesday, a consumer court stopped hearing cases after the judge said it was too hot to work without air conditioning. Several areas are crippled by water crisis. Some people were seen chasing water tankers or climbing on top of them to fill their canisters. Authorities have warned that they will start fining those caught wasting water. Water Minister announced that 200 teams would be deployed to crack down on people caught wasting water. After all, wasting water at a time when some are struggling for every drop is nothing less than a crime. Some of us have the luxury to sit in an air-conditioned room, but many do not. They toil away in this heat to earn their daily wage. But some workers at construction sites might get some relief, as Delhi's Lieutenant Governor has ordered a 3-hour paid break for them every day. Will it be enforced? That's the question.
It's extremely hot and there are no customers. We put a tarp, but it gets challenging due to the heat to sit under it. We come to work for one day and then have to take off for at least 4 days because we fall sick as the temperatures are very high.
I have this small business which I run on this cart. When it's very hot, I look for shade and stand under it for some time. And when it gets better, I start to move again.
And it's not just Delhi. The situation is similar in whole of north and central Delhi. More than 37 Indian cities have recorded temperatures over 45 degrees Celsius this week. Rajasthan's Jaipur city reported 3 deaths due to heat strokes. Elsewhere, the cities of Churu in Rajasthan and Sirsa in northern Haryana state have also recorded temperatures over 50 degrees Celsius. Every year we tell you about this, the temperatures have soared to record highs, that we had this many of days of extreme heat. The figure keeps getting higher year by year. So no matter how hot you are feeling right now, most probably it will only get hotter around this time next year, unless we actually decide to take some concrete measures against climate change. All right, shifting focus to the United States, where 3 black men are suing American Airlines for racism. In their complaint filed in federal court, the men say they were booted off a flight over a complaint about an unidentified passenger's body odor. The men say they were not humiliated because of their race, because none of them smelled bad. Here's a report.
3 black men have sued American Airlines over racism. The lawsuit, which was filed in a federal court in Brooklyn, claims that the airline removed 8 black men from a flight over a complaint about an unidentified passenger's body odor. You heard that right. The complaint says that the men were asked to temporarily step off a flight from Phoenix to New York City in January, only because they were black. The plaintiffs complained that they were clearly discriminated against because none of them smelled bad, yet they were removed. According to the lawsuit, the 3 men had never met before the flight and they were not seated together. However, before takeoff, an airline representative approached them individually and asked them to leave the plane without any explanation. As per a press statement, 5 other black male passengers were also asked to deboard. Notably, the statement also said none of the other passengers accused any of the plaintiffs of having offensive body odor. Their ordeal didn't end there. The black men were not allowed to enter the flight. They say they were asked by the airlines to book another flight. The men were eventually allowed to reboard the flight after an American representative told them that there were no longer any flights that evening to rebook them on. In total, the flight was delayed by over an hour. The plaintiffs claimed that the American Airlines singled them out, embarrassed them, and humiliated them. The American Airlines have released a statement on this matter. The airline said that they take all claims of discrimination very seriously and want customers to have a positive experience. American Airlines says that they are currently investigating the matter, as the claims do not reflect the company's core values. It begs the question, is it okay for a passenger airline to force a passenger off the plane due to bad body odor?
Now it seems British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is tone deaf. He's out of touch with the masses. What makes me say that? It's his bag. Luxury bag, to be precise. It's worth no less than $950. It's from the luxury brand Tumi. It's personalized with his initials, RS. Guess where he chose to carry it? On a campaign visit to one of the country's poorest areas. Yes, Rishi Sunak carried almost a $1,000 bag while campaigning for votes from the poor. He has little over a month to beg for votes from Britons. Can he afford to make such blunders? This is not the first time Sunak has messed up. There's a reason his critics call him an upper-class leader of an elite and out-of-touch party. Even his reforms are often out of touch with reality. In the past, Sunak has been seen wearing ultra-expensive clothing items and accessories during campaign events. In July 2022, when he first campaigned to be a Tory leader, Sunak was seen wearing a pair of Prada suede shoes worth some $620. The millionaire donned the brown loafers as he toured the Teesside Freeport. While wearing the shoes, he was heard saying, and I'm quoting here, "I know things are tough and people are feeling anxious about how they're going to pay these bills." His wife Akshata Murthy has also faced fire for serving tea in cups worth around $50. Mr. Sunak and wife Akshata Murthy are the richest inhabitants of Downing Street in history. Together, they have a fortune worth $828 million. They rank above the king on the list of wealthiest people in the UK. So, of course, if you look at Sunak, you will see evident signs of luxury. And he seems to be so out of touch that he forgets to hide them, and even when he's campaigning. Even at a time when the rest of the Britons are struggling to make ends meet. And on tonight's edition of Gravitas Snapshot, we'll tell you the story of former spy chief turned Prime Minister of Netherlands. The Dutch right-wing coalition has put forth the name of former security chief Dick Schoof for the top post. Dubbed the smiling killer by fellow civil servants, Schoof will lead a government that is largely expected to implement a radical program, including measures that could bring the country in conflict with the European Union. But who is Dick Schoof and what does he bring to the table? Now, the backdrop to Schoof's nomination is a political landscape shaken by Geert Wilders, the anti-Islam populist who won the Dutch election last November. Wilders, a polarizing figure, was eventually pushed to give up his bid to become Prime Minister. There was unease over Wilders' anti-Islam and anti-European views and policies. Despite abandoning some of his more extreme positions like banning the Quran, Wilders eventually formed a coalition with 3 other parties and decided not to seek the post of Prime Minister. Enter Dick Schoof, a popular choice among coalition members at least, to be the next Prime Minister. After 14 years under Mark Rutte's leadership, the Netherlands is set for a significant change. The 67-year-old Dick Schoof is a seasoned civil servant. His extensive resume includes leading the Netherlands AIVD Domestic Security Service, the Counter-Terrorism Agency, and the Immigration Service. Currently, he's the highest-ranking official in the Justice Ministry. Schoof admitted that the nomination came as a surprise even to him. He said, and I'm quoting here, "For me, this is a very intense moment. I never would have expected to be asked to stand here." But he says he's ready to take on the challenge, promising to be a Prime Minister for all Dutch people. Given the circumstances under which he was nominated, Schoof has asserted his independent leadership. He has said that there is only one Prime Minister, and that will be me. Schoof has stressed that he will not be influenced by Wilders despite their coalition partnership. In a recent interview, Schoof reflected on the election results, suggesting they signal a broader distrust in the government's ability to address issues. Though a long-time Labour Party member, Schoof says he now feels no particular allegiance to any party. This coalition, which includes Wilders' Party for Freedom, that's PVV, Reuters People's Party for Freedom and Democracy, Newcomers in New Social Contract Party, and the agriculture-friendly Farmer Citizen Movement. It's agreed on a platform of strict immigration controls and other controversial measures. The coalition has faced criticism both domestically and internationally for its asylum policies, which could strain relationship with the European Union. Shkov's immediate task is to assemble a ministerial team with Richard Vanswol leading this process. The goal is to have a cabinet in place by the end of June, ahead of the summer recess. All eyes are on Shkov as he prepares to lead the Netherlands through this transformative period. Now for a story of compassion. Stray dogs get free entry to the Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai thanks to the owner, billionaire Ratan Tata's strict instructions to the hotel staff. Embrace everyone. This message is winning hearts on social media. Here's the full story. An HR professional who stayed at the prestigious Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai shared her experience on the networking platform LinkedIn. In a post, she described that during her stay, she was surprised to discover a dog peacefully sleeping at the hotel's entrance. Intrigued by the dog's presence, the HR professional named Ruby Khan decided to inquire about it with the hotel staff. The staff explained to her that the dog had been a beloved part of the hotel since birth. They further elaborated that the special treatment of animals was in accordance with strict instructions from Ratan Tata, who told the staff, "Treat animals well." Ms. Khan described how the encounter had a profound impact on her. She says she was inspired to write about the experience after realizing that a prestigious establishment frequented by political figures and celebrities values everyone within its walls. She recounted a touching scene where a homeless person peacefully slept at the entrance, seemingly unnoticed by many guests. She says this served as a reminder to her that the true essence of a business lies in how it treats others. The post on LinkedIn has now gone viral. Netizens are appreciating the compassionate gesture by Ratan Tata and are sharing their 2 cents on the importance of inclusion. Have you ever wondered why babies gurgle and babble? These delightful squeals, growls and cooing might actually be crucial exercises for their developing vocal cords. Researchers now suggest these sounds are early attempts at practicing vocal control for improving speech in the future. Take a look.
A baby's face is a canvas of unbridled joy and innocence. The cute features, eyes sparkling with wonder, and instinctual smile. All those sights melt the heart and fills it with warmth and light. And when the tender lips let out a stream of gurgles and coos, it's a symphony of laughter and love that transcends all languages. But could these precious vocalizations hold a deeper meaning and a profound purpose? Researchers have delved into the delightful world of infant babbling. Their findings suggest these sounds may be more than just adorable gibberish. In a study of over 130 infants, carefully analyzing their sounds month by month, patterns began to emerge. Those excited squeals, contented growls, and vowel-like vocals don't occur in random bursts. They are clustered in distinct groups, like tiny vocal ensembles performing in sync. This clustering phenomenon spans all ages, from newborns to 1-year-olds. It hints at an innate mechanism for vocal exploration that is hardwired into these tiny toddlers from the moment they enter the world. And while the 3 to 4 month window traditionally associated with the onset of vocal play showed a surprising dip in clustering, the researchers noted another intriguing trend. The findings also offer a fascinating glimpse into how infants prepare for speech. The early sounds babies produce are not just expressions of joy or discomfort, but essential exercises that help them gain control over their vocal apparatus. This early vocal practice is crucial for developing the ability to speak, forming the foundation of language skills that will develop in the years to come. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Moving on, recent Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian nuclear early warning systems have raised significant concerns in Washington. Watch this next report to know how the Biden administration worries that these attacks could dangerously unsettle Moscow, especially as the debate intensifies over whether to allow Ukraine to use US-supplied weapons in cross-border assaults. Take a look.
Ukrainian soldiers are fighting hard to check the advance of the Russian troops, who are backed by Russia's ferocious firepower. Kyiv's response has been daring drone strikes. Ukrainian drones hit early warning radar stations deep inside Russia, targeting systems that monitor not only conventional air threats but also potential nuclear launches. But these strikes could alter the strategic stability between the US and Russia. These early warning radar systems are designed to detect and track intercontinental ballistic missiles and determine if Russia is under nuclear attack. Analysts point out that the Krasnodar's radar can track missiles and drones close to Ukraine. The radar station near Orsk is primarily focused on the West Asia and China. The US has expressed its concern to Ukraine about these strikes, and there is also fear of how Russia might choose to retaliate. Ukraine says its attacks are aimed at reducing Russia's capability to track Ukrainian military movements in southern Ukraine, an argument that is finding little backing in Washington. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continues to press that the Russian onslaught should be stopped.
Russia is using more than 3,000 guided aerial bombs per month against our people. We believe the number will go up to 3,500 next month. Thousands of bombs are falling on people.
The long-range Ukrainian strikes deep inside Russia come amid a chorus of Western nations, including Poland, the UK, Canada, France and Sweden, advocating for Kyiv to use Western weapons as it sees fit. These countries are pushing to give more freedom to Ukraine in its military operations against Russia. The Kremlin is accusing NATO of provoking Ukraine to prolong the conflict. The accusations coincide with the NATO foreign ministers meeting in Prague to discuss lifting restrictions on Kyiv's use of Western weapons for strikes inside Russia. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And Hollywood's recovery post the actors and writers strike does not seem to be going as well as planned. A string of flops, including the recently released Mad Max Furiosa, it's left the industry high and dry this year. More details in our next report.
The first half of 2024 has witnessed too many misfires at the box office. According to reports, this year's total box office collection will fall flat compared to last year. The projection was made after the North American box office recorded its worst Memorial Day weekend in 43 years. Memorial Day ticket sales were estimated at $128.3 million. The figure was shocking since theaters were able to rank in around $205 million last year during the same period.
However long it takes.
Hopes for a holiday weekend success were pinned on Furiosa, a Mad Max prequel. The film, which stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth, grossed an estimated $32 million over the weekend in North America. Only $1 million more than the Garfield movie. But it is not just Furiosa that has let theaters down. Marvel's latest offering, Madame Web, underperformed as well. Ryan Gosling's action flick The Fall Guy did not live up to the hype either. That is not all. John Krasinski's much-anticipated animated comedy If did not mint a significant amount despite its target audience being families and viewers of all age groups. The only 2024 release that has performed well so far is Dune Part 2, starring Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, and Florence Pugh, among others. Some experts have weighed in on this problem, saying that young people are not as inclined to purchase tickets as their parents were because of the variety of content offered by streaming platforms. Others have traced Hollywood's unfortunate box office fortunes back to last year's strikes. The industry has taken a hit since the planning and production of several projects were put on hold owing to the strikes last year. However, the second half of the year is awaiting major releases such as Deadpool and Wolverine, Joker, Folie à Deux. It remains to be seen if the upcoming releases can turn things around at the ticket windows. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And sanctions hit Russia. It's looking at new options for trade settlements. Stable coins have emerged as a viable alternative. Russian commodities firms have trouble settling transactions with their Chinese counterparts. They're using this method. Take a look at this next report to know more about this.
Two Russian metals producers, which are unsanctioned, are using stablecoins and other cryptocurrencies to settle some cross-border transactions with mostly Chinese clients and suppliers. This is according to a Bloomberg report quoting top executives as sources. Settlements may flow through Hong Kong. The fact that significant Russian firms are using blockchain 2 years after the February 2022 invasion of Ukraine shows the economic impact of international war prohibitions. Since the crisis began, Russian companies have had trouble getting paid and buying equipment and raw materials. Even when not sanctioned, individuals and firms have faced repeated US, EU, and other allies' sanctions. Even China has found banking transactions with Russia harder this year. Compliance has tightened. This is driven by the US Treasury Department imposing secondary restrictions on lenders supporting sanctions evasion. Bloomberg sources say the alternative is often slower transactions or worse, risking an overseas bank account that could be frozen. Some unsanctioned companies open dozens of accounts in different countries only to see them frozen one after the other. Using cryptos for payments is not unusual for countries under sanctions. Transactions for cargo from Venezuela are increasingly done using Tether. Many of the deals are brokered through intermediaries based in Dubai, but these transactions come at steep discounts. Crypto's growing role in settlements also indicates a shift in Russian central bank's approach to the industry. Previously, the Bank of Russia had considered a blanket ban on the use and creation of all cryptos, but in November, Governor Elvira Nabiullina told Parliament that she supports experimenting with such payments in international transactions. The central bank said it has observed significant rise in crypto activity among Russians in recent quarters. Crypto-linked banking services in Russia are also expanding. Business Bureau, WION, World is One.
Alright, as always, time now for Gravitas, a recall. And on this day in 1971, Mariner 9, which was NASA's Mars orbiter, lifted off from Cape Canaveral, Florida. It beat the Soviet Mars 2 to the Red Planet to become the first spacecraft to orbit another planet. Mariner 9 was the first orbital mission to Mars. It arrived at the Red Planet in November that year. While in orbit, Mariner 9 mapped 85% of the Martian surface. It also collected valuable information about Mars' surface and atmosphere. Of the more than 7,000 images it transmitted, some of the most significant were the first detailed views of the solar system's largest volcano, a canyon system that dwarfs the Grand Canyon, and the Martian moons called Phobos and Deimos. Imagery received from the orbiter transformed our perception of Mars from a cold crater-filled planet to a world full of geological activity and a planet that once had water. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Africa's youngest nation goes to the polls in December as politicians of all hues, including current South Sudan's President Salva Kiir, jostle for power. A philanthropic organization urges rebels to surrender by dropping hundreds of thousands of flyers from a helicopter above their strongholds in dense rainforests. And an ancient game called Kora promotes unity and tradition in Algeria's mountains. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION World is One.
This week on the West Asia Post, global outrage over Israeli strikes on Rafah that killed 45 civilians living in safe zones. The humanitarian crisis worsens as innocent people are pushed to the brink. When will this harrowing ordeal end? Also on the show, we talk about the future of Syria and the burdens of Syrian refugees in West Asia.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, every Friday at these times, only on WION World is One.
As Smile Kaparia's All We Imagine is Light scripts history at the Cannes Film Festival. We look at the Indian filmmaker's journey in movies. Decode method dressing, the new buzzword for film and fashion lovers. And check out a list of hand-picked films you can watch this Pride Month. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times, only on WION E-Club.
Call from the ancestors.